Joel Rubin is the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State in the Obama administration. He's now president of the Washington Strategy Group. Joel, good to see you, as always.
You too.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? I mean, has Israel been able to really mute Hezbollah as a threat with these attacks? Have they really hampered their capabilities? What's your sense of it?
Yeah, look, this threat from Hezbollah has been an ongoing threat for years. And I think what Israel has done over the past several weeks has really been a game changer, Jim. The Patriot strikes, then the strike on Nasrallah, and reports of up to half of the missile arsenal that Hezbollah had in tow being destroyed. And I think you see the response from Iran as the real tell on this. The Iranian foreign minister going to Lebanon in a show of support or force, or trying to say don't give up yet to Hezbollah, that implies that they understand that they are under siege, and that's why Israel's taking the push forward more aggressively. And I do think they see a window of opportunity now towards Hezbollah that they haven't seen in years. And they're going to keep on pressing, and they should, because they need to get the north of Israel back to normal, reestablished, and they need to get away from having this threat. And it's also worth mentioning, I should say this, Lebanon deserves to have peace too. And the Lebanese government deserves to have control of southern Lebanon and not have a rump militia force controlled by a foreign power dominating its whole southern security situation.
And Joel, as Israel weighs its response to Iran's attacks, I did want to ask you about something. Former President Donald Trump said this week that Israel should target their nuclear facilities. What happens if Israel goes down that road? I mean, I believe President Biden has said he hopes that does not happen. But what happens if that happens?
Well, that's reckless talk, as we can expect from Donald Trump. He's a chaos agent when it comes to foreign policy. And for Israel, they need to keep their eye on the ball. They need to focus on the threats, the threat of Hezbollah, of Hamas, of Iranian missiles coming in, needing to try to prevent the resupply of Hezbollah from Iran. There are significant targets in Iran that are direct threats to Israel right now, but Iran is not right now possessing a nuclear weapon. It is not right now on the cusp of a nuclear weapon. It does have too much fissile material. It's close if it chooses to weaponize or chooses to build that nuclear bomb, but that kind of an attack could be extremely reckless and also would miss the target, which is of protecting Israeli security directly from the immediate threats they're facing.
And let's listen to what President Biden had to say about this potential for retaliation against Iran by Israel. Let's listen to this.
Included what they're going to do in terms of a strike. If I were in their shoes, I'd be thinking about other alternatives than striking oil fields.
Yeah, what'd you make of that, Joel?
Yeah, I think the president's right. I think what he's saying is alternatives. Look, Israel is in a very unique position right now. Time is on their side in terms of a response to Iran. The global condemnation of these unprovoked, frankly, attacks by Iran, shooting into civilian areas. This has built up a bit of reservoir of support for Israel on the global stage. And I think when they need to target in a way that continues to build on that support, go after where the threats came from. Iran for another day. But right now, this immediate war with Hamas and with Hezbollah, that's what directly impacts Israeli security right now. And I think the president's right to counsel that type of targeting and that kind of next step for the Israeli military.
All right, we'll be watching. We know you will as well. Joel Rubin, thanks as
Jim.
always. Really appreciate it.